I just realized something and we have to talk about this. Half-Life 1 came out in 1998, developed by Valve and distributed by Sierra Online before Activision took them over.
This is the purest sample we've seen yet.
And potentially the most unstable.
Now, follow standard insertion procedures. Everything will be fine.
It became the 5th best-selling game that year, selling over 445,000 copies in 1998. You all know it. You all love it. It was a massive success, rocketing Valve throughout gaming. But Gabe Newell had different plans in mind for his still small game studio. Gabe knew he didn't want to rely on publishers to release his games, and he also wanted to fix glaring issues that were plaguing PC gaming at the time. Because again, boys, this is 1990s we're talking about, early 2000s. Online gaming back then was a whole different beast. Because trying to do something as simple as, patching a game after its release, that was like trying to walk through shards of glass back in 1998. And Gabe wanted to combat hackers and cheaters and, Counter-Strike, a Half-Life mod that was becoming popular.
Out of my way, son! Door stuck! Door stuck!
Back in the day, whatever came on the disc was what you got. There was no patching the disc unless you got yourself a new copy, usually with the PlayStation Greatest Hits kind of catalog of games. And Xbox had their own thing called Platinum Hits. It was basically the exact same thing as PlayStation's Greatest Hits, just updated versions of, the exact same game with, bug fixes and shit. So Valve started development on Steam in 2002 and it was released in 2003 to many major problems, seeing that it was so ahead of its time and developed by people who stared at these kind of screens all day. So let's just say it was ugly and not user friendly at all. Plus, the one and only thing it was supposed to be made for, which is patching Valve games, was unbelievably plagued with instability. I mean, Valve was so ahead of its time with Steam being trash when it first released. They pioneered having an internet connection to even boot up single player games because Valve made it to where even if you had the physical copy of Half-Life 2, Steam still needed to be installed on your computer and you needed to be logged in to authenticate it is your copy of the game you got the physical disc for. And also Valve being hacked by a hacker that released Half-Life 2 source code showing that it was unfinished. Yeah. They were gonna, try to do the thing that game companies do now, which is release the game before it was finished and then patch in the finished version of the game using their rusty new distribution platform to patch while selling the unfinished version of the game. So yeah, I truly think that them getting hacked weeks before Half-Life 2's release is probably a blessing in disguise, because I don't know how many people were gonna give Valve the benefit of the doubt to patch in G-Man after, waiting weeks for this thing to even come out, let alone having to wait hours for the patch to download.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman.
But obviously at this point the game already went gold, which means they already shipped out the disc of the unfinished PC version of the game to, GameStop, Walmart, and all of them. So Valve rightfully delayed the game to actually finish it, seeing that at this point they really had no other option. Which worked out pretty well for them, because upon the full release of the game, not Cyberpunk 2077's version of a release, Half-Life 2 sold over 1.7 million copies in the first 2 months of its release. But this big W for Valve was really a double-edged sword for customers, because not only did they have to wait longer for the game, but also sadly, Half-Life 2 had a day one patch. Yes, Valve was one of the first gaming companies ever to do a day one patch for a physical disc. Now, usually we don't really think too much about these day one patches because they're so rarely common and typically small enough to where by the time you put in the disc, the patch is already downloaded. But you have to remember, nowadays we are spoiled for internet speeds. Yes, even you with Comcast, or even worse if you have Spectrum. Because even the slowest internet speeds today still dwarf internet speeds in the early 2000s. Half-Life 2's day one patch is between 4 and 5 gigabytes. With today's internet speeds, that'll probably take between a few seconds to even a few minutes, depending on how much competition is in your provider's area. Let's just say Spectrum has a stranglehold over my region. But in 2004, a 4 to 5 gigabyte patch was huge, because the most common broadband internet speed was 861 kilobytes per second. Not megabytes, kilobytes, a K, not an M. Nowadays, people typically, even outside with almost no cell service, at least get some form of megabit internet. Kilobit internet is so slow, it is 0.001 of a megabyte. Yes, that is how slow a kilobit is. This would take between 10 and 11 hours to download just the day one patch for Half-Life 2. And if you wanted to download the full 6 gigabyte game, that would take between 17 and 18 hours. This isn't including if, you didn't even know Steam existed and never downloaded it and took the time to set it up, because again, loading up web pages back in the day was also extremely slow. So this was about them near a 24-hour endeavor just to play the game.
We should really do this again and be best friends.
Cool. So, that's it? Hello? Oop. Oh my gosh.
Yo guys, it's me, Charlie. Hey, did that guy just turn into sand?
So let's just say we can all thank Valve for their bold and brave innovations that took over the gaming industry so much to where it literally killed a whole brand, because Microsoft wanted to take this a step further by making their Xbox One a always online console.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360. That's your message. If you don't, like it.
If you have zero access to the internet, that is an offline device.
Microsoft is still regretting putting that man in any kind of leadership position to this day. But back to Steam. So yeah, Steam is now 0-2 for evil corporate greed tactics that could have killed the company if they decided to go down those routes. Something Gabe Newell realized over time, that the last thing that you want to do is piss off your customers. In 2011, saying one of his most famous lines about piracy.
Piracy is about people who want to steal stuff from you, right? That they don't want to pay any money and they want to get your content. But when you look at the fact that these people have, $2,000 PCs and, they're spending $50 a month US more on their internet connections, clearly they're willing to spend money. So from our point of view, what we saw more and more is that piracy is a result of bad service.
So now we get into comparisons with Microsoft's strategy that led them to dominate the PC industry and Valve's strategy to expand Steam's customer base. So many people probably thought Microsoft got their start selling pre-built PCs, but actually no. Bill Gates and his friend Paul Allen wanted to make software for the Altair 8800, an early personal computer. But their first piece of software weren't their claim to fame. Microsoft got lucky being able to strike a deal with IBM to provide them with MS-DOS for the first IBM computer, which started Bill Gates' reign of terror over the PC industry, leading them to try to making hardware, everything from Surface tablets to Xbox. Now, the reason why Microsoft actually made Xbox is because they wanted to prevent Sony with their PlayStation 2 from taking over the living room and basically making personal computers obsolete for entertainment purposes. Because at the time, gaming consoles obviously were becoming huge things, and Sony came out with their PlayStation 2, the best-selling console of all times. Still to this day, if you don't know, PlayStation 2 is still the best-selling console ever. And Microsoft was worried about their domination in the living room entertainment industry, seeing that all PlayStation 2s came built in with a DVD player, which was really nice because a lot of people also bought these consoles as an alternative way to play DVDs. So with Sony taking a bigger and bigger market share of the home computing industry by, making it seem like people were going to stray away from actual computers and go towards home consoles, Xbox had a fear that they were gonna be the minority in the home computing industry. Much like how, we're gonna get more into it in a minute, Microsoft has taken over the PC gaming industries by, being the only operating system that people use. But obviously, Sony never took over the home computing industry in the way that Microsoft feared they would. So Microsoft started pulling back more from hardware and reshifting their focus back to software. Microsoft is still focused on their operating systems, obviously.
Hello there. Can you spare a dime for a poor old sexy woman like me?
Can't help you, sorry.
She giving y'all trouble?
No, it's cool, Mr. Boss. She was actually just leaving.
Oh, I damn you! I damn you! I damn you!
Whoa, scary. Get out of here, stupid lady.
Let's just say Copilot is not helping them out right now because no one wants this shit on their PC. So Steam back in 2012 was already trying to set this plan into motion of copying Microsoft's business strategy of partnering with already established PC building companies and just having them load their OS onto it. But before they could even ship out the consoles, they would actually have to make SteamOS. So in 2012, Valve developed the Linux-based operating system SteamOS. Now, the reason why Gabe Newell decided to make a Linux-based operating system for his platform is because Linux is open source, so they don't have to start from scratch. But also, Microsoft basically has a monopoly over PC gaming operating systems, which back in 2012 was over 96% of Steam users. And no, Linux only made up 1% of their users because Apple, yes, that Apple, made up 3% of Steam PC market, which is mind-blowing because more people were opening up Steam on their iMac instead of their Linux-based PCs. So Gabe, seeing that the PC gaming market is being dominated by only one giant monopoly, he and Valve decided to create a OS for gamers. Launching it in 2013 to zero fanfare, seeing that literally no one was creating or porting any games to Linux, so 99% of the games ran like trash on SteamOS.
And as I mentioned, the graphics are a little, the graphics and everything are a little bit choppy.
You like it? Nah! Nah!
You would think Valve would have seen this coming, but nope. Gabe got amnesia and forgot what happened with Steam's release all the way back in 2004. Now SteamOS has had a lot of improvements, but we will talk about them later in this video, because we have to talk about the hardware side of Valve's strategy to copy Microsoft's game-winning plan. The Steam Machine, before it was named the GameCube. But before it was called the GameCube, it was called nothing, because no one bought it, seeing that Valve's main audience that even knew this thing existed literally already had one. See, the Steam Machine was a small compact PC that was supposed to be Valve's answer to a home console competitor like the Xbox or PlayStation, but it's also, you know, a PC. And you see, back in 2015, it was peak console wars. This was before Xbox shit the bed, so people were married to their platforms of their choosing, and so were their games. Games used to be console exclusives. You want to play Bloodborne? You need a PS4. You want to play Halo? Yeah, that's gonna be an Xbox One right there. Cross-platform was only a twinkle in the eye of many gamers, let alone cross-platform releases of exclusive games, especially with PlayStation, who seem to be walking back their pledge of putting games on PC. So if there was a franchise you liked, you would stick to whatever console you had, unless you were Scrooge McDuck and just bought every console under the sun. I know there's some rich kid out there that's still reminiscing about their Ouya.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
So yes, the console wars mixed with the fact that SteamOS giving games asthma. No one bought it. Now, this wasn't the worst thing in the world for Steam, seeing they weren't the ones who had to make these consoles. Yes, Gabe, with his 2000 IQ play, somehow convinced Alienware, Falcon Northwest, and iBuyPower to load his OS onto Steam Machine branded PCs they made. So, Valve came out of this with minimal loss, which is just everyone not trusting Valve making any kind of hardware, because they also offered controllers as well that Valve did have to pay for stock in. Let's just say there's a reason why they got discontinued. So the Valve hardware division wasn't looking good, and they needed a win to get people to hop on the SteamOS ship and make them want to install it onto their PCs. So enter the Steam Deck, a handheld PC. This is not only Steam's best-selling hardware ever, even beating out the Steam Index during the whole VR craze.
There you go. You've been such a dirty boy.
But this revolutionized PC gaming as a whole, spawning countless copycats. Lenovo Legion Go, Asus ROG Ally, Anon Flip DS, Zotac Zone, and many others. There were so many of these things, creating a new market for handheld gaming PCs. This thing molded by the gods to give you a pretty decent desktop gaming experience in your hands was something that we could only dream of. And in 2022, after being in development for 2 years, the Steam Deck was released to a smashing success. This also introduced millions of people to the new and improved SteamOS. Valve decided to finally fix the glaring issues with trying to play games designed for Windows on Linux by creating Proton. Proton is a compatibility layer designed to run Windows games on Linux. The Steam Deck introduced many gamers to the beautiful world of SteamOS that actually just works. It's smooth, intuitive, and actually runs games at a reasonable frame rate, depending on how demanding the game is. Somehow people got Red Dead Redemption 2 to run on this thing, but Borderlands 4 is just too computationally demanding. Now, obviously, not all games work on Steam Deck, so Steam solved this problem of not knowing what games work on the Steam Deck by adding one of these 4 icons to determine the likelihood the game even turning on, let alone turning your Steam Deck into an IED. So yeah, Gabe and Co did it. They really did it. They were able to introduce their SteamOS to their already platformed exclusive audience. And it was such a resounding success to where they were out of stock. And it's not like these things are cheap either. On the low end, it's at least $550 and can go as high as $650. These things have been flying off the shelves to where they can't keep them in stock. They are still out of stock. But there also is no other looming reason why these things are so hard to find, especially, specifically now. Definitely no shortage of any crucial technology that powers everything from the most high-end PC down to your literal smart refrigerator. Now, it's not only just, the price of RAM that's keeping these things off of shelves, though, because, they were so sought after to where before RAM shortages was even a thing, Valve was still having a hard time keeping up with the demand for this product since its release in 2022. Valve has finally done what they have been trying to do since their Steam Machine original. They finally introduced their 132 million users to the best functioning PC handheld operating system, and now they are dominating the PC handheld space and even becoming the dominant choice of operating systems for subsequent gamers. Much like Microsoft in their early days of creating the operating system for IBM and then taking over the rest of the PC industry, people are now uninstalling their Windows from their Steam Deck competitors like the ROG Ally and installing SteamOS because it's just better in every way. So here we are back in the present. Valve revealed their new Steam Machine and their next plans of trying to dominate the PC gaming market when they revealed it back in November 12th of 2025. Along with their new lineup of hardware, they revealed their new headset called the Steam Frame and also revealed that they have a brand new controller that they're still trying to put trackpads on. I might have to get one of those because at least this one has a D-pad now. They also did something smart. They reminded us about how successful the Steam Deck with SteamOS was before introducing their new piece of hardware, the Steam Machine 2. Or not. Seeing that they're actually the only ones manufacturing, storing, and selling it, not like the time Gabe kind of burned third parties by making them foot the bill for their failed product. The Steam Machine 2, or Gabe Cube, whatever you want to call it, is supposed to be a cube-shaped mid-range PC capable of not only running SteamOS and playing games, but also it's just a PC. So if you really wanted to, I don't know why you would, you could just uninstall SteamOS and load up Windows. Valve is hoping for a wide range adoption, the same that Steam Deck has, and technically Xbox, from what they are saying, are going down the same console/PC route as well. So it seems like the market is opening up for people who are thinking about buying an Xbox, ditching whatever bloated Copilot Windows OS they use on it, and installing SteamOS for a smooth, seamless experience. But let's all be honest here. I have a PC capable of playing PC games. You have a PC capable of playing PC games. Anyone who is remotely interested in the Steam machine has a capable PC and probably can run better for technically cheaper, seeing that, you know, the thing already does the exact same thing your PC does, and not even better from what people are saying.
But what will its performance be like? Valve states it offers 6 times the performance of the Steam Deck. Given that it consumes about 10 times the amount of power, yeah, good. And this should make it enough to be a decent PC for all sorts of tasks, and they claim it will be enough to run 4K, provided you use upscaling, and that's the key bit there. And inside this machine is a 6-core Zen 4 processor, which is sort of like a decent entry-level gaming PC sort of standard. It's got a graphics card based on RDNA 3, sporting 28 CUDA cores? No, that's a compute unit. Oh, Jesus. And 8GB of VRAM. This makes it roughly equivalent to a last-gen Radeon 7 600M, which isn't very exciting, but it is to be expected. Ideally, I'd have wanted RDNA 4, simply for its improved FSR4 upscaling, which would really have helped aid this machine in its goal to upscale stuff to 4K. As it is, based on RDNA 3, it has a visually inferior FSR3 upscaler and generally worse ray tracing performance.
So, what's the gimmick? The reason why the Steam Deck worked is because no one really made a portable handheld gaming PC before. That was a new, novel concept. The reason why PlayStation and Nintendo are still competing in the console race is because of their exclusives. Which conspiracy theories are saying that Valve has Half-Life 3 somewhere in a vault waiting for the release of the GameCube as a big Hail Mary to try to get people to buy this damn thing. But it's going to be an exclusive to Steam, not the GameCube. So again, why would people buy the Steam machine to play a game they already are capable of playing on their PC? So unless Valve is willing to put this exclusively on the Steam machine and force SteamOS use in launching it, I do think it's going to fail, since even Valve has said they aren't selling it at a loss, which rules out a small streamer like myself, link in the description, go ahead, you already made it this far, from buying this as a second streaming PC and using your main one to game on, or vice versa. So now you have to think about who would buy a console that is less powerful than a PC with 0 exclusives to that console itself. So only time will tell if Steam can capture lightning in a bottle twice. But even by their own admissions, it's probably not going to be a popular piece of hardware like the Steam Deck. If Valve wants to make sure their new console is successful, they are probably going to have to create exclusives to the console that people on PC can't get without the console, or at least having SteamOS launching it. Knowing Valve, they probably will not do that, so sadly I think we're going to be running into the same issues the first Steam machine had. The people Valve are marketing this thing to already have a PC, and if it's not going to be at a reasonable price, we'll have 0 reason to buy this as a secondary PC or even gaming console. So this is going to be a rough launch for Valve's next plans to become the next Microsoft. But that may be a good thing, seeing that Microslop has turned into this.
You had to do it, man.
But thank you for watching the video. Leave a like, subscribe. I mean, brother, you made it all the way here to the end of the video, and you still thinking about not liking and subscribe? Come on. Do it.